Hi, my name is Joe Legilia, and on this episode of Not Your Average Joe, powered by Mortgage Message, we're talking with Tracy Rae Crow of the Plainfield Neighbors Magazine. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Joe, powered by Mortgage Message. My name is Joe Legilia, and today we are joined with Tracy Rae Crow of the Plainfield Neighbors Magazine. Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. It's an honor to be here.
We are so excited to have you here. You are such a dear friend of mine, and I am so excited to have our audience hear your story. And so we're going to get started kind of in the beginning. But first and foremost, why don't you take a second, introduce yourself to everybody, and tell them who you are.
My name is Tracy Rae Crow, and I'm the publisher of Plainfield Neighbors. I've also been a resident of Plainfield for over 20 years.
So exciting, so exciting. So Plainfield Neighbors Magazine, I mean, just a staple in this community in such a short amount of time. And we're going to try to unpack the journey. That's what this show is all about, just kind of documenting the journey. So start from the beginning. Plainfield Neighbors Magazine, where did it start?
So March 2020, everybody I'm sure has their personal stories to share about that time. The company that I thought I was going to retire from closed their doors. And so it was very scary, kind of a dark time for me because I'm single. I don't have anybody walking in the door saying, hey, don't worry about the bills, honey. Here's the check for the mortgage. And so I did see it as also an opportunity to find my next work opportunity. So I did start searching, and I just came back to what I love to do. And that is advertising, sales, marketing, and helping small and medium-sized businesses brand and grow their business.
So I have to say, because I'm sure there's someone in the audience that's thinking this, because I remember, and we'll talk about this when you and I reunited during this period of time, but launching a magazine at the start of the pandemic, take us through the mindset of saying, I know it sounds crazy, but this is what I believe, this is what I love to do. Just take us through that moment of pushing through that first step forward.
So I had faith that what I was going to do will help the community. That was my main goal. Plus, as you recall, when the pandemic started, there was such a local support in this community. Oh, it was amazing. And I thought, how could I continue that? So this felt relevant. This felt right. This felt like I could add to what was going on in the community.
So going back to that moment in time, I'm going to take us back just a little bit farther, and then we'll jump ahead again. But when I said we were reunited, we actually met about 5 years before this moment of the Plainfield Neighbors Magazine. And I'll just share my perspective. The irony of it is that we met at the exact time that I was getting started here in Plainfield, and you were doing what you loved. You were working, as a publisher, working for a magazine locally. And I just, to me, I love the fact that kind of would love to hear your perspective of kind of us coming back together after that initial kind of meeting, and we had just a wonderful campaign at that moment in time when I first launched here in Plainfield. But just kind of take us through that moment, because you walked in the doors here at Oakleaf, and I was like, and you were memorable. I said, oh my gosh, my friend Tracy, how are you? But just take us through that moment for you coming in here again 5 years later.
What a great memory, Joe. Yes. So the previous company that I worked for, we did regional home improvement magazines, but occasionally we would do a local impressions where we would go in and highlight a community. And that's when I first met you. And when I decided to launch Plainfield Neighbors, you were the first person I thought of. Oh, wow. And I was so lucky to then be introduced to your brother and everyone here at Oakleaf Community Mortgage as well.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And there you were launching a magazine in the heart of the pandemic, and just the momentum started. Oakleaf got on board. All these other local businesses said, oh my gosh, what a great connection. Just kind of taking us through that beginning moment. Just kind of talk about how this thing started building momentum. I mean, I would love for, we have a lot of business owners who watch this show. We've a ton of people locally in the community who watch this show. they really want to know the origin story of Plainfield Neighbors Magazine. Take us through that kind of initial momentum phase where you started saying, hey, this thing actually is picking up some steam. We'd love to hear kind of some perspective there.
I am so very grateful for what I call my charter sponsors. Those are the businesses that first decided to take this journey with me. And I remember saying, okay, I'm doing this. And every time I would see my charter sponsors, I think I cried. I think I cried a lot. And I would hug them and say, thank you so very much for taking this journey with me, because without you, I could not do this. So I'm so very, very grateful.
You talk about the Plainfield community, and we share the sentiment of just how special this community is. Certainly your journey, my journey, so many journeys of people who have decided to say, hey, this is going to be the place we call home, not just for, the roof over our head, but for our business. And this community, time and time again, lifts up the people who pour back into it. And you embody that person. And I think where I want to go next is just kind of speaking about what has been some of the memories over these last couple of years of just the Plainfield community coming together with you through this magazine. I have some that I'd like to share, but I'd like for you to go first.
Well, Joe, thank you. And you and I are both on this same journey together. And I think you and I've said to you over and over, birds of a feather flock together.
Absolutely.
You lift people up with this show. I try and lift people up with my magazine. I was overwhelmed with the initial reader response when the magazine first dropped, and how the nominations were rolling in for the front cover features, and recommending businesses, the referrals I was getting to go see this person, they'll love what you're doing. So it's just, again, overwhelming.
So let's, it's a great segue, Ms. Tracy. Let's talk about the front cover. And I just happen to have this random issue here of Plainfield Neighbors. This is, and I want to say this on the show, this is by far one of the greatest honors that my family and I had, was to be featured on the cover of this magazine. It's a memory that we hold so near and dear to our heart. And it's a memory that, looking back, I'm so excited for my kids at some point, because they're young still, to look back and go, what the heck were we doing on the magazine cover, Mom and Dad? What was going on with that? But it gives you an opportunity, and it's not just our family. So many families, stories, and I think this is why, as you said, we really do come together as friends and as business partners. You really do bring stories to the surface that otherwise wouldn't be told, wouldn't be heard. And so many of the feature stories that I read each and every single month, it's these amazing families that are contributing, right? These neighbors of ours, these people in our backyard that you are bringing to the forefront. And I guess from that perspective, I would love to have you kind of talk about just some of the families, or just the process of meeting these families and what that has been just for you as a person, just food for your soul.
It has been wonderful, and that is one of my favorite covers, as you know. But again, the response from readers that have been reaching out to me and nominating families, and when I meet families and they're thanking me, and I'm like, no, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. It really is connecting the community on a higher level, I think, and I'm so proud to be able to do that.
Well, and I love it because just that in and of itself could be enough content to keep the interest of a reader. But there's so much more to this magazine. Kind of speak a little bit about, and maybe this might be geared towards a little bit of the business owner locally who's watching, but speak a little bit about the other content that this magazine features month in and month out. I'd love to kind of hear you kind of touch on that.
Well, I do have, what's beautiful about this magazine is that it's the community magazine. People in Plainfield can participate and submit articles, recipes, sports news with their kids. And as far as the business sponsors, one of my favorite high-profile sponsorship is the expert contributors. My goal is to have a magazine come to a Plainfield homeowner and be filled with services and businesses, experts that can help them, direct them in their daily lives. I'd love to grow that. And with the expert sponsorships, you have you can submit articles about what your business does so well and educate and inform the readers. So I'm real excited about that. And then I have launched kind of a sports section in my magazine.
Yeah, please speak on that.
Yeah, so it is also the company, Best Version Media, launched recently a BVM Sports website, and it contains national all the way down to local. My goal is to infuse it with local. So it's kind of tied with the sports section of my magazine as well as the BVM Sports website.
Well, and what I think is really genuine about that is that I think people show up for the local. And when you talk about local sports, when you talk about youth sports, what an amazing new initiative of Plainfield Neighbors Magazine to be able to be the linchpin, the focal point of saying, hey, this is what's really going on with the kids here in the community and the sports that they're playing. I love it. And I got to tell you, just as a sidebar, there's going to be a point where I'm going to submit an article about coaching my 4U Suns T-ball team. It's like herding cats, but we're having fun out there. I just spoiler alert, every game is a tie, but we'll still find something to report about. So Trace, you talk about in the beginning launching this thing, coming from a place where you thought you were going to retire, kind of the entire world doing a 180, both for your world and for all of us at that time. The goal was to launch. You checked that box. You launched the magazine. Talk to us about, now that you've built this momentum, this brand, this people are waiting every month for what's this magazine going to have next month. They're excited to receive it. Excited to see who's on the cover, excited to see who's the new expert contributor. When you see what you've been able to build over the last couple of years in the most unprecedented times, what do you see for the goal of the future of this thing, whether short-term or long-term? What are some of the big vision goals that you say to yourself when you look at this thing and you go, man, I think we can go here with this? What are some of the things you think about?
Well, my goals are simple, but I hope that everyone embraces them. My goal is just to continue to share the remarkable stories of the families in our community. People can nominate. I've got nominations coming in all the time. In fact, this year is already booked, and I've got, waiting list for next year, but I'm always open. I also want to promote and share charities in the area as well and feature those in my magazine. But I also want to help local businesses be able to brand their message and reach this wonderful community that we live in, and then build the sports section and also build the BVM Sports website.
From a personal perspective, I think one of the reasons why this magazine, Plainfield Neighbors, has been so successful is because I think we're moving into a new era of news distribution where people really want something tangible. They want something they could touch and they can feel. And what people have always been able to touch and feel has been local. And I think that is such a contributor of the success of this, because you bring that truth to the forefront through this magazine. You're bringing real stories, real families to the forefront. Now, I have to ask you, just because I'm a little bit of a digital guy, talk about the digital component of this. We have this beautiful magazine we get to touch and feel, like we say, but there is a digital component to this, is there not?
Yes, there's actually 3 digital components that sponsors can take advantage of. Anybody that decides to brand their message in my magazine, we can literally take the ad, create a Facebook ad and a Google display ad, as well as now the BVM Sports website ads. So, but I will tell you, Joe, the print, I had a lot of response from readers from the get-go that thank you for the positive news and thank you for the printed magazine because it's so relaxing and I'm enjoying reading it over and over again.
Well, and we talk about it all the time, and I have the pleasure of being in many different circles with you, but there is something, digital, albeit the future, which is here today, there is something about having something in your hand, sitting on the back deck, maybe you got a cool drink there, and you're reading, and you're flipping the pages, and you're sharing it with the person next to you. There's something to that. And so I couldn't agree more with you, whoever shared that with you. I want to ask you, because I think, I look at you being able to jump in and jump out of sponsors' offices, say hello. You always come with, a magazine to share. You always come with treats, You really do embody positivity all across the board. But I got to ask, what is the favorite? I know you love what you do, but what's the favorite part of your job?
You just said it, Joe.
That was it.
My favorite part of the job is every month going in and thanking my sponsors, giving them a big hug. It is absolutely, I will do that moving forward. I will never put that magazine in the mail and mail it to my friends. That is my favorite part of my job.
It's such a golden practice. There's so many ways that I want to resemble that in my own business practice, because it's so golden. And that was not scripted. That's wild. I was really just thinking that would have been my favorite part. So there you go. Yeah. I hear this a lot, and this is growing. The distribution is growing. But as the reach continues to grow in Plainfield, people are raising their hands saying, Tracy, how do I get on the distribution list? Or, Tracy, I'm a business owner. I know this is successful. I'm seeing the businesses that are in this magazine continue to grow. How can I get involved? Just kind of speak to both sides of that if you can.
So the distribution, my goal is to grow the distribution as the sponsorships grow. I want to grow the page count. I want to help as many businesses as possible with this magazine. So
I guess as a business owner who's watching right now, and they're convinced from this interview, maybe they're meeting you for the first time, or maybe they've been just hearing about it, seeing it on the socials, what would be the best way for a business owner to get a hold of you to discuss sponsorship?
Oh, absolutely. You can call me direct, 815-355-3544, or email me, tcrow@bestversionmedia.com.
So great. Tracy, you are you're a dear friend of mine that I'm so happy that our paths crossed all those years ago. I'm so happy that you thought of us, you thought of me, you thought of Oakleaf to stop in with this brand new initiative and to say, you guys believe that this is going to be something special, and we believed from the second you walked through that door that this was going to be something special. There's so much more to this story to come, and I'm so excited to be a part of that story, albeit maybe on a few pages, but this is your story, and we're just excited to share it. You are a real community hero to so many, so selfless, always giving. Just can't say enough about you being the change in the world that we all want to see, so thank you. And with that said, in closing of the interview, who is your hero?
Oh, my dad. Yeah, my dad, 86 years young. I tell him every day he's got to get to level 90, and he has a lot of health issues. He's developed dementia, but he has the strongest will to live, and I love that about him.
Well, you definitely represent him well. Thank you, Tracy, for being on the show. Thank you for all that you do for our community. Plainfield Neighbors is the magazine, everyone. Make sure to get a copy if you're a business owner. If you haven't talked to Tracy, you're missing out on an unbelievable opportunity. My name is Joe Lagilia. Thanks for tuning in this week, everyone. We'll see you next week. Take care.